A small-town guy finds a lost woman in the woods. She turns out to be a millionaire, escaping an arranged marriage. "Can you hear me? Please, wake up. I am not letting you die out here." The rain whispered through the trees, a steady mist falling over the quiet roads of a small mountain town tucked far from the noise of the world. The headlights of an old pickup truck cut through the darkness, illuminating slick asphalt and the thick fog curling through the woods like ghostly fingers. Inside the truck, Gavin Monroe leaned forward in his seat, eyes narrowed. He was exhausted after a long evening shift at the town's only auto repair shop, his hands still bearing the grease and grime of a dozen engines. But something ahead caught his eye, a flash of white, out of place, crumpled by the side of the road. His heart kicked in his chest. He slowed, squinting through the windshield. Was that a person? He slammed on the brakes. The truck skidded slightly on the wet road before coming to a stop. Gavin jumped out, boots splashing in the shallow puddles. As he neared the edge of the road, his stomach dropped. A woman lay in the brush, half covered by leaves and rain. She was dressed in what looked unmistakably like a wedding gown, now torn, soaked, and stained with mud and blood. Her bare feet were scratched and cold, her skin pale under the faint glow of the truck's headlights. "Oh my God," Gavin whispered, dropping to his knees beside her. "Hey, can you hear me? You're going to be okay, all right? Stay with me." He gently touched her shoulder, then checked her pulse. Faint, but there was a gash on her forehead, bleeding sluggishly down her face, and her ankle was twisted at an unnatural angle. She had been through something terrible. His instincts kicked in, muscle memory from years ago when he volunteered with the town's mountain rescue team. He grabbed the emergency kit from the back of his truck, moving with precision despite the panic rising in his throat. "I've got you," he murmured, as he cleaned the wound on her forehead and wrapped it quickly with gauze. "You're safe now, I promise." He took off his flannel jacket and wrapped it tightly around her. Her body was ice cold, trembling against the night's chill. She did not wake, but a soft breath escaped her lips, shallow but steady. Gavin lifted her gently into his arms, careful with her leg. She was lighter than he expected, fragile, like a bird with a broken wing. He placed her on the passenger seat of his truck, propped her leg as best he could, and slammed the door shut before racing around to the driver's side. The local hospital was 15 minutes away. He drove like hell, glancing over at her every few seconds, making sure her chest still rose and fell. "What happened to you?" he muttered, more to himself than to her. Her face was streaked with rain and blood, but beneath it all there was something hauntingly delicate about her. Regal almost. As the town's dim lights began to appear through the mist, Gavin reached over to adjust the jacket around her shoulders, and that was when he noticed it. A bracelet. Gold. Simple in design but heavy and unmistakably expensive. It caught the light briefly, revealing a small engraving on the inside, a symbol that looked like a serpent curled around a blooming flower. Gavin frowned. It was not a brand logo, not something he recognized, but it was strange, unique. He pulled into the emergency entrance of the hospital, honking twice. Nurses came rushing out with a stretcher as he jumped out and waved them over. "She's hurt bad," he said quickly. "I found her near mile marker 17, just off the woods. Looks like she fell or was... I don't know, but she's unconscious, bleeding. Her leg might be broken." The nurses moved swiftly, lifting her with practiced care. Gavin followed them into the hospital, but paused at the doorway to the emergency room as they wheeled her away. His chest was still heaving, soaked from the rain. For a moment, he just stood there, the storm outside echoing the questions storming through his mind. Who was she? What was a woman in a wedding dress doing alone in the woods on a night like this, and what in God's name had she been running from? The fluorescent lights of the hospital flickered faintly as nurses bustled down sterile halls, but Gavin barely noticed. He sat in the corner of the waiting area, hands clasped tightly, watching the door to the intensive care unit room where they had taken the mysterious woman. His jeans were still damp from the rain, and the smell of antiseptic made him feel even more out of place. He was a mechanic, not someone used to hospitals or mysteries. A nurse finally approached, clipboard in hand. "She's stable," she said. "Minor concussion, deep laceration on the forehead, and a dislocated ankle. But she's lucky, really lucky." Gavin stood. "Did she say anything? Do you know who she is?" The nurse shook her head. "No ID, no phone, no purse. And no memory. She woke up briefly, panicked, muttered a few words we couldn't really make sense of." "What kind of words?" The nurse glanced at her notes. "Car, chase, wedding, cliff." It did not make much sense. She fell unconscious again soon after. A cold shiver ran down Gavin's spine. He had known something was wrong, but this confirmed it. This woman had been running from something, or someone. Later that day, the police came. A young officer interviewed Gavin and took statements from the hospital staff. After running her fingerprint through their system and checking missing persons databases, the officer returned with a puzzled expression. "There's nothing," he said. "No match on her prints, and there are no reports of any bride gone missing, at least not yet. Could be she's from out of state, or she was never reported." "She has to be someone," Gavin said. "Someone must be looking for her." The officer shrugged. "Maybe. We'll keep digging. But honestly, we're stretched thin this week. If you're willing to keep an eye on her, we'd appreciate it. The social worker is backed up, and she's not a minor or a danger to herself or others, at least for now." It was not how Gavin had pictured his week going. But when he stepped into the hospital room and looked at her again, pale against the white sheets, that mysterious gold bracelet still on her wrist, he knew he could not just walk away. When she woke again that evening, her eyes fluttered open slowly. They were a deep, piercing gray. She looked at him, confused and afraid. "Hey," he said gently, approaching the bed. "You're safe. My name's Gavin. I found you by the road last night. Do you remember anything?" She blinked at him, struggling to sit up, then winced at the pain in her ankle. She looked around, lips parting as if searching for something in the air. I don't know," she whispered. "I don't know who I am." "That's okay," Gavin said, grabbing a chair. "Don't push it, just rest." She closed her eyes, then murmured, "Car, someone was chasing me. There was a wedding, then a cliff. I think I fell." "You were wearing a wedding dress," Gavin confirmed, watching her carefully. Her hands instinctively touched her chest and arms as if to feel the fabric again, but it was gone, replaced by a hospital gown. She frowned, confused. As she lay back, her wrist turned, and Gavin noticed something he had missed before. A small tattoo just under her bracelet. A lily. He smiled faintly. "Until you remember your name, how about I call you Lily? Seems to suit you." She looked down at the tattoo and nodded weakly. "Okay, Lily." Over the next 2 days, it became clear that Lily was not just recovering from physical trauma. Loud noises made her flinch. Flashing lights sent her into panic. She slept poorly, waking up drenched in sweat, eyes wide with unspoken terror. The doctors suspected post-traumatic stress disorder, though without knowing her history they could not do much more than monitor and stabilize her. With no ID, no medical history, and no known next of kin, Lily was effectively a ghost. The hospital could not keep her indefinitely, and social services were overwhelmed. So when Gavin offered to take her home and care for her temporarily, they hesitated but eventually agreed, especially with the police's quiet nod of approval. Gavin's house was small, nestled just outside town, surrounded by pine trees and fields. It was quiet, simple, and safe. He gave Lily his guest room, kept her ankle elevated, and cooked her simple meals. Slowly she began to speak more, though never about her past, only about how strange and foreign everything felt. Then came the third night. It was after midnight when Gavin was jolted awake by a scream. Not just a frightened cry, but a raw, primal scream of fear and pain. He raced down the hall and threw open Lily's door. She was thrashing in the bed, tangled in sheets, hands clawing at the air. "No, stop! I won't marry him. Let me go!" "You promised, Lily." Gavin rushed to her side, gripping her shoulders. "It's a dream. You're safe. Wake up." Her eyes snapped open, tears streaming down her cheeks. She looked around, gasping. He said I had to marry him," she whispered, "because my family owed them. I did not want to. I tried to run. He caught me. He dragged me to a car. I jumped. I think I jumped." Gavin swallowed hard. "You're remembering." She nodded slowly, face pale as a sheet. "I remember his face. Cold, like he did not care if I lived or died. He said, 'You will marry him. Your family owes us. You have no choice.'" Gavin sat beside her, silent for a long moment, then placed a hand gently over hers. "You have a choice now, Lily. I do not know who he was or what your past holds, but here you are safe." And for the first time, she did not look like she wanted to run. Recovery was slow but steady. The swelling in Lily's ankle went down, and the bruises on her arms faded from deep purples to faint yellow traces. Each day she grew stronger, not just physically but emotionally. Still, she moved through Gavin's house like a ghost in borrowed skin, polite, quiet, always watching, always wondering. Her memory remained a puzzle, with most of the pieces still missing, but now and then one would fall into place. It started with dreams. One morning, over breakfast, Lily stirred her tea absently, eyes distant. "I saw something," she murmured, "last night, in my sleep." Gavin looked up from the eggs he was scrambling. "What did you see?" "A room, large, gilded, like a ballroom almost. But I was not dancing. I was locked in it. The windows were high, the doors thick, and I was wearing a dress, a wedding dress." She rubbed her temples, her voice shaky. "There was someone there, a woman, older, elegant, but cold. She kept saying I was being foolish, that I had to go through with it." Gavin set down the spatula and came to sit across from her. "Did you know her?" I think she's my mother." Gavin handed her the small notebook they had been using, a simple leather-bound journal where he encouraged her to write everything she remembered, names, images, feelings, anything. Together they had begun piecing it all together like a slow-burning mystery. "She was angry," Lily whispered as she scribbled down the memory. "But not scared. She wasn't trying to protect me, just control me." For the next few days, more fragments surfaced. A silver comb placed carefully on a vanity, the chill of satin gloves pulled tight over shaking hands. A man's voice on the phone, distant and commanding. Lily would stop mid-sentence, her eyes glazing over as the pieces drifted back. Then she'd shake herself free, frustrated by the lack of clarity. Gavin remained patient. He kept busy during the day with his repair shop, but always made time to listen. At night, they sat on the porch under the soft hum of crickets, the warm air wrapping around them like a blanket. Then, one Saturday morning, they went into town. The small downtown strip was bustling with locals. There was a flea market happening in the square, and Gavin suggested they get some air and browse. Lily hesitated but agreed, pulling on a scarf and sunglasses even though the day was overcast. They strolled slowly through rows of old books, dusty tools, and hand-knit scarves. Gavin stopped to talk with a vendor he knew, while Lily wandered toward the far end of the lot. She stopped in front of a rusted old pickup truck parked behind a stall, the hood open for display as part of a vintage auto collection. The side door bore a faded sticker, once elegant, now worn by time, a black serpent coiled around a single white flower. Lily froze. Her eyes widened as her breath caught. A floodgate burst open in her mind. A different vehicle, a sleek black luxury car barreling through the woods. Trees whipping past, headlights slicing through the dark. That same logo on the dashboard. She was inside, hands tied, mouth dry with fear. She had screamed, kicked, begged. The man in the front seat did not flinch. "I told you," he said without turning. "You cannot run from this. You belong to him now." "No!" Lily cried out, staggering back from the truck. Her knees buckled. Gavin heard the scream and sprinted toward her. She was on the ground, shaking, eyes wide with terror. He dropped beside her, grasping her arms. "Lily, what happened? Talk to me." "He'd got me," she gasped. "He found me. He locked me in that car. I was in the woods. He was taking me somewhere. I did not want to go. I fought. I screamed, but he would not stop, so I jumped. I opened the door and jumped while it was moving." Gavin's face paled. "Jesus." I remember the trees, the sound of the wheels on gravel, then falling. I must have hit the rocks. That is how I ended up where you found me." Gavin helped her to her feet, one hand protectively around her back. She clung to him, tears streaming down her face. "That was no accident," he said slowly. "You were being held against your will." Lily nodded, trembling. "I was supposed to get married, but not because I wanted to. Because they made me. Because my family needed something. Money, power, I do not know. I just know I was a piece on a board, not a person." Gavin stared at the old logo on the truck, his mind spinning. All this time he had assumed she was a victim of circumstance, wrong place, wrong time. But now the truth was becoming clearer. She was not just a lost girl in a wedding dress. She was someone important. Someone people were willing to chase, to trap, to silence, and they had not stopped looking. He turned to her, voice steady despite the storm in his chest. "Lily, whoever did this to you, they are going to come looking again. But you are not alone anymore. We will figure this out, I promise." The sun was just rising when Gavin sat at the kitchen table, coffee in one hand, laptop open before him. Lily, Amelia, was finally asleep, recovering after the flashback that had shaken her to her core. But Gavin hadn't slept. Something had changed. This was no longer just about helping a stranger. He needed to know who she really was and what she had run from. He started searching online. Missing bride, wedding disappearance, nothing useful. Then he remembered the logo, serpent and flower, and typed in, "Serpent Flower Logo Family Crest." That was the breakthrough. An image popped up from a gala in New York, a marble wall with that same crest behind a crowd of powerful-looking people. Richmond Holdings' annual gala. His heart stopped. He clicked deeper and there it was, a headline, "Heiress Amelia Richmond vanishes, hours before $12 million wedding." The photo showed a poised young woman in a designer gown, her hair perfect, her smile forced, but her eyes, those were Lily's eyes. Haunted, distant. The article named her, daughter of Charles and Eleanor Richmond, engaged to Henry Vail, CEO of Vail Enterprises. The marriage was meant to merge fortunes, repair damage from failed overseas investments. But Amelia had disappeared the night before the wedding. Gavin sat back, stunned. All this time, Lily had been at the center of a storm no one saw coming. He printed the article and tucked it into their notebook. When she woke, he would show her, carefully, gently. Later that day, Amelia joined him outside, wearing one of his old flannel shirts. Her ankle was healing, she looked stronger. Curious. "You look like you didn't sleep," she said, settling beside him. "I didn't," Gavin replied, handing her the article. She read it in silence. When she reached the photo, her fingers trembled. Her voice was soft but certain. "That's me." Gavin nodded. "You're Amelia Richmond. Your family's very wealthy. It looks like they were forcing you to marry Henry Vail, a man with a questionable reputation." She stared at the page, then slowly closed her eyes. "I remember now." He leaned in, listening. "My mother never cared about love, just appearances. After my father's deals collapsed, she said Henry was our only way out. His company offered to rescue us, but only if I married him." Her voice cracked. "I refused. I begged her. She wouldn't listen. She said I owed the family." Gavin stayed quiet as she spoke, her truth pouring out. "I tried to run the night before the wedding. I had a bag, a plan, but someone must have told them. 2 men found me, Henry's men. They locked me in a car. I screamed, fought. No one came. They were taking me to some private estate to finish the ceremony in secret. When I saw a sharp curve, I took my chance. I opened the door, jumped. I hit the rocks. Everything went black. That's when I found you," Gavin said softly. She nodded. "You saved me." They sat for a moment in silence. The trees whispered in the breeze. Life, somehow, kept going. "What now?" Gavin asked. She looked toward the woods, her eyes calm. "I don't know, but for the first time I feel like I get to choose." And to Gavin, that was everything. In the weeks that followed, Amelia fell into a rhythm she had never known before. It was simple, quiet, and profoundly healing. The soft creak of the porch swing in the morning, the way sunlight filtered through the pine trees around Gavin's cabin, the smell of coffee brewing, and the distant sound of birds calling in the woods. Here, time seemed to slow down, and for the first time in her life, she had space to breathe. Gavin had a gentle way of being present without pressing. He did not flood her with questions or treat her like a fragile thing. He gave her tasks, small and steady. One morning, he taught her how to knead dough for biscuits, his hands guiding hers until the flour coated her fingertips. Another afternoon, he showed her how to change the oil in his truck, her laughter bubbling up as grease smeared across her cheek. "I never thought I'd be doing this," she said one day, looking at her hands, now rougher than she ever imagined they could be. "What? Baking or fixing a carburetor?" Gavin teased. "Living," she replied, voice barely above a whisper. "Living like this." That night, as they sat on the porch watching fireflies dance across the tall grass, Amelia began to cry. Not the loud, frantic sobs of someone in fear, but quiet tears, sliding down her cheeks as her heart finally opened. "I do not know what kind of life I had before," she said, "but I know I was never this free, never this real." Gavin turned to her, his voice soft. "You deserve to feel safe. You deserve to be whoever you want to be, not who they decided for you." Their eyes met in the hush of twilight, and though no more words were spoken, something shifted between them, unspoken, fragile, and true. But peace is never safe for long. It started with small things. A car parked at the gas station for too long. A man in sunglasses browsing the shelves of the general store, but never buying anything. At first, Gavin brushed it off. Tourists passed through all the time, hikers, hunters, photographers. But something about this man did not sit right. Gavin saw him again outside the post office, pretending to read a flyer while glancing too often at the street. His clothes were too new, his boots too clean for someone claiming to be backpacking. And then, that evening, Gavin noticed the man outside the diner, sitting near the window, holding a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. Gavin's instincts sharpened. He had learned to trust his gut, and this time his gut screamed trouble. He did not tell Amelia right away. He did not want to worry her unless he was sure. But he started walking with her to the market, lingering a little longer at her side. He kept a crowbar under the seat of his truck and checked the locks twice before bed. The breaking point came 3 days later. Amelia and Gavin were at the local hardware store picking up paint for the porch. She was laughing, really laughing, as she tried to choose between shades of blue. Then she stopped mid-sentence, eyes locking on someone just outside the window. Gavin followed her gaze. It was the man, and Amelia's face drained of all color. "That's him," she whispered. "From the car, from my dream. He's one of Henry's men, a bodyguard. I remember now. He was there when they dragged me away." Gavin's jaw tightened. "Stay here." He walked outside, casual but focused. The man had already turned and started walking down the street. Gavin followed, keeping distance, weaving between parked cars and shop fronts. He watched as the man stopped by a black SUV with tinted windows and pulled out a phone. He was speaking in low tones, glancing back toward the store. Gavin moved closer, careful to stay out of sight, and listened. "Positive ID. Yes, she's here. Looks like she's with someone local." Gavin's stomach dropped. He backed away quietly and returned to the store. Amelia was by the door, eyes wild. "They know," he said simply. "They may found you." Panic flickered in her eyes, but then she steadied herself. "What do we do?" Gavin grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the truck. "We get out. Tonight." As they drove away from the store, Gavin glanced at her. She was staring out the window, face set with determination. "I cannot go back," she whispered. "I will not be traded again." "You won't," he said. "I promise you, Amelia, we're going to stay one step ahead." And somewhere behind them, in the reflection of the rearview mirror, the black SUV slowly rolled out of the parking lot. The tension hung thick in the cabin like a storm waiting to break. Gavin stood by the kitchen sink, arms crossed, eyes dark with worry. Across the room, Amelia paced, her hands trembling as she tried to steady her breath. "We cannot stay here, Gavin," she said, her voice firm but heavy with fear. "You saw him. They're getting closer." "I know," he replied, his jaw clenched. "But running forever? That's not living, Amelia. You deserve more than hiding in the shadows." "And what if staying means they take me?" she shot back. "What if they take you? I couldn't survive that." Gavin turned away, gripping the edge of the counter. "You think I want to lose you? You think I haven't thought about what happens if they find us again?" She crossed the room to him, her voice quieter now. "I don't want to run either, but I want you safe. I don't care if I have to live in the woods or change my name or disappear off every map in the world, as long as you're with me." He looked down at her, torn between anger and love, fear and something deeper. "You shouldn't have to live like that." "I already did," she whispered, "in a mansion, with every luxury, and not a single moment of freedom. That wasn't living. This, what we have, it is." A long silence stretched between them, broken only by the sound of distant thunder. Then Gavin sighed, brushing a hand through his hair. "Okay," he said finally, "we go, tonight." They packed light, just enough to get by. Amelia took the notebook with her memories, the flannel shirt Gavin had given her, and the small gold bracelet she had once tried to forget. Gavin brought tools, flashlights, cash from his emergency stash. They had just started loading the truck when they heard it. A car engine, slow, cautious. The cabin was far from town. No one drove up this way unless they knew exactly where they were going. Gavin grabbed Amelia's hand. "Go, now." They ducked out the back and into the forest as rain began to fall, soft at first, then harder with each step they took. The trees swallowed them whole, their shadows stretching long in the lightning flashes above. Behind them, a door slammed, and footsteps echoed through the wet grass. "He's here," Amelia gasped, stumbling over a root. "It's him." Gavin tightened his grip, pulling her along. "Keep moving. We can lose him in the woods." They ran deeper, the forest floor slick beneath their feet, branches slapping their faces and arms. Thunder cracked above, like the sky itself was shattering. The rain poured harder, blinding them. Then Amelia slipped, her foot twisted beneath her, and she cried out, collapsing into the mud. Gavin dropped beside her. "Are you hurt?" She nodded, teeth clenched in pain. "My ankle, again." He did not hesitate. Without a word, he lifted her into his arms. The weight familiar, echoing that night weeks ago when she was the one unconscious, lost and broken. But now she was awake, clutching him, not just surviving, but choosing to fight. "Hold on," he said, his voice low. "I've got you." They moved through the downpour, Gavin's steps slow but steady. The forest was alive with sound, wind roaring through the trees, the distant snap of twigs behind them. Someone was following. Amelia buried her face in his shoulder. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't want to slow you down." "You didn't," he said fiercely. "You're the reason I'm still moving." They reached a ridge and ducked beneath a rocky outcrop, half sheltered from the storm. Gavin set her down gently, checking her ankle. It was swelling fast. "We need to keep going," she said, shivering. "Not until you can walk," he said, pulling off his jacket and wrapping it around her. In the distance, the sound of a voice called through the trees, low, calm, professional. "Amelia, we don't want to hurt you. Come back now, and this ends peacefully." She flinched. Gavin leaned close, his forehead resting against hers. "Let them think they're close. We'll double back at first light." Amelia nodded, her hands gripping his shirt. They sat there, soaked to the bone, hearts pounding in unison. And despite the danger, despite the storm, they held on to the only thing they could be sure of, each other. The rain had passed by morning, leaving the forest washed clean and silent. Gavin carried Amelia through the last stretch of trees until the outline of a small, weathered cabin came into view. It sat hidden deep in the hills, surrounded by moss-covered stones and tall pines swaying gently in the wind. The place belonged to a friend of Gavin's who used it for hunting trips, isolated, quiet, and off the grid. Inside, it smelled of old cedar and dust, but it was dry and safe and for now, that was enough. Gavin made a fire while Amelia rested, her injured ankle elevated on a pile of blankets. She watched him move around the space with ease, his hands steady even after the chaos of the night before. There was something grounding in his presence, something that steadied the storm still swirling inside her. They spent 2 days there, letting the world spin outside while they healed. On the third morning, Amelia stood by the window, staring out at the mist curling between the trees. "I have to go back," she said softly. Gavin looked up from where he was bandaging her ankle. "What?" "I cannot hide forever. I thought running would save me, but all it did was delay the fight. I need to face them. My mother, Henry, all of it." He stood slowly, brushing off his hands. "You do not owe them anything." "I know," she said, turning to face him, "but I owe myself the truth. I need to stand in front of them and show them I'm not theirs to control anymore. I'm not a bargaining chip or an asset. I'm a person, and if that means giving up everything, then so be it." Gavin walked over, stopping just a few inches from her. He reached out, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Then I'm going with you." "You do not have to. I know. I don't. But I want to. You're not doing this alone, Amelia." Her eyes glistened, but she smiled, a small, brave smile that reached all the way to her soul. 3 days later, they arrived in the city. It felt like entering another world. Towering buildings, polished glass, luxury cars humming quietly through the streets. Amelia's world, but one she no longer belonged to. They pulled up to the Richmond estate in a borrowed sedan. Gavin parked outside the gates while Amelia took a breath, and steeling herself, she wore simple clothes, clean lines, no jewelry, no makeup. Her presence alone was her declaration. The butler looked stunned when he opened the door. "Miss Richmond? We thought you were—" "Tell my mother and Henry I'm here," she said calmly. Within minutes, she stood in the grand drawing room, facing the two people who had shaped so much of her life with silence and expectation. Eleanor Richmond sat stiff-backed on a velvet settee, her expression tight, lips pressed into a line. Henry Vale stood nearby, hands in his pockets, his demeanor unchanged, smug, cool, calculating. "You've caused quite the mess," Eleanor said sharply. "Do you have any idea what you've cost us?" "I know exactly what it cost," Amelia replied, "and I am done paying for your mistakes." Henry chuckled. "Is this supposed to be some kind of statement? You vanish, and now what? You expect applause?" "I expect nothing from you," she said. "I came to say this face to face. I am not marrying you. I never will, and if my inheritance, my title, my place in this family depends on being your pawn, then I give it all up." Eleanor stood, fury rising in her eyes. "Do not be foolish, Amelia. You're walking away from everything." "No," Amelia said, her voice steady. "I'm walking toward something, toward a life that is mine, without chains, without shame." Henry stepped forward. "You think that man you ran off with can protect you? You'll be nothing without this family, poor, forgotten." Amelia met his gaze, unflinching. "Then I'll be poor, and free, and loved, which is more than I ever got from either of you." Silence fell, tense, final. She turned and walked out, her steps sure. Outside, Gavin was waiting by the car, his eyes searching hers. "Well?" he asked. She exhaled deeply. "It's over. I left it all behind." He smiled, pride and admiration shining through. "Good. Now we can start something new." And she knew with absolute certainty that this time the life ahead would be her own. 1 year later, the town had settled into its quiet rhythm, wrapped in the crisp, golden air of early autumn. On the corner of Main Street, a small cafe called Lily and Oak stood warm and inviting, ivy curling around the hand-painted sign above the door. Inside, Amelia Richmond, no longer heiress, no longer runaway, worked behind the counter, flower on her cheek and her sleeves rolled up. She moved with purpose, laughing as she passed cinnamon buns to regulars and called out orders to the kitchen. The cafe was filled with music, conversation, and the comfort of something real. Across the street, Gavin's garage, Monroe Auto and Repair, hummed with steady work. He had finally opened his dream shop, with space to teach local teens and enough room to rebuild old engines. The townspeople supported him not for show, but because he was dependable, kind, and always ready to lend a hand. Some afternoons, Gavin would wander over during lunch, grease still on his hands, just to see Amelia's smile, and every time, she smiled like he'd brought the sun with him. They had built their life slowly, on quiet mornings, honest work, and healing. Amelia still had occasional nightmares, but she no longer woke up alone. And in this place, with these people, she had become something she never thought she could be, known and loved for who she truly was. The town embraced her fully. No one asked too many questions. They brought her pies, shared gossip, and made her part of their days. She wasn't Miss Richmond anymore, just Amelia, the woman who made the best lemon scones in the valley and remembered your coffee order by heart. Then came the day they had been waiting for. The morning sun rose over the hills, casting soft light on a small clearing behind the cafe. Wildflowers surrounded a wooden arch tied with white ribbon. Simple folding chairs were set in rows. No photographers, no spectacle, just community, just heart. Amelia emerged from a nearby cabin wearing the same wedding gown she had once fled in. It had been cleaned, mended, and now shimmered softly in the breeze. A crown of daisies rested on her head, and her eyes were clear and calm. Gavin stood beneath the arch in a simple suit, smiling the same way he had the day he found her on the road. The ceremony was brief, but full of feeling. The local pastor spoke of love, built on truth. Guests, farmers, bakers, teachers, wiped at their eyes and clapped when they kissed. When it came time for vows, Gavin held her hands and said, "When I first found you, you were lost, but I think I was too. Somewhere along the way, you became my compass." Amelia's voice wavered with emotion. "You saw me for more than my name, more than my past. With you, I became someone I actually like being." There was no grandeur, no headlines, just joy, just love. As the sun dipped below the trees, Amelia rested her head on Gavin's chest during their first dance, barefoot on the grass, fireflies flickering all around them. "Do you ever miss it?" Gavin asked softly. She smiled and kissed his jaw. "Not even a little." And in that quiet moment, Amelia knew she had finally found what she had searched for all along, home. And so, from a stormy night in the woods to a sunlit hill in a quiet town, Amelia's journey reminds us that the truest kind of wealth is not measured in dollars or diamonds, but in freedom, in love, and in the people who choose to stand by us when we're lost. Her story is not just about running away from a life that wasn't hers, it's about running towards something real. And maybe, just maybe, it's a reminder for all of us that sometimes the most unexpected detours lead us exactly where we're meant to be. If this story touched your heart, made you believe in second chances, or reminded you of the quiet power of love and resilience, we invite you to join our growing community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another soul-stirring tale. Welcome to Soul Stirring Stories, where every story is a journey to the heart.